I'm Jack, 29M, and I've been grappling with some intense family drama that's been eating away at me for months now. To give you some context, I have an older sister, Megan, 34F, who I used to be incredibly close with when we were kids. We were raised by our dad, Rick, 62M, after our mom, Sarah, passed away in a car accident when I was just 5 and Megan was 10. Growing up without mom was tough, but dad did his absolute best to provide for us. He worked long, grueling hours as a mechanic at the local auto shop, often coming home with grease-stained clothes and exhaustion etched on his face. Despite the challenges, he always made sure we had food on the table and clothes on our backs. I remember countless nights where he'd sit with us at the kitchen table, helping with homework or just listening to our day, even though I could see the fatigue in his eyes. Megan and I coped with mom's loss differently. I threw myself into sports, joining every team I could at school. It was my way of staying busy and not thinking about the empty space at home. Megan, on the other hand, became fiercely independent. She excelled in her studies and took on a lot of responsibility around the house. I can still picture her at 14, standing on a step stool to reach the stove, determined to cook dinner for us so dad could rest when he got home. As we got older, our paths started to diverge. Megan's excellent grades earned her a full scholarship to a prestigious university on the other side of the country. I still remember the day she left for college, dad trying to hide his tears as he hugged her goodbye, and me feeling a mix of pride and abandonment. I chose to stay local for school, partly because I wanted to be close to dad and partly because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. During those college years, Megan's visits home became less and less frequent. At first, it was just holidays, then it dwindled to once a year, if that. She'd call occasionally, but the conversations were always brief and surface level. Meanwhile, I was at home most weekends, helping dad with house repairs or just keeping him company watching old Western movies, his favorite. After graduation, I landed a job at a local bank. It wasn't my dream career, but it was stable, and it allowed me to move into my own apartment while still being close enough to check on dad regularly. I'd go over every Sunday for dinner, often bringing groceries or helping with chores around the house. Things took an unexpected turn about 5 years ago. It was a rainy Tuesday evening when Megan suddenly showed up on dad's doorstep, a baby carrier in one hand and a duffel bag in the other. The baby, we learned, was Emily, Megan's 3-month-old daughter. Megan looked disheveled and exhausted, nothing like the put-together sister I remembered. Through tears, Megan explained that she had gotten divorced. Her ex-husband, a guy named Trevor whom none of us had ever met, they'd eloped in Vegas 2 years prior, had cheated on her with a coworker. The messy divorce had cost Megan her job at a high-profile marketing firm, and she had nowhere else to go. Dad, being the caring person he is, welcomed them with open arms. He didn't hesitate for a second, immediately offering up his home as a safe haven for Megan and Emily. I watched in awe as he transformed his beloved home office, the place where he'd spend hours tinkering with old radios and reading car manuals, into a cozy nursery for Emily. He even dug out some of our old baby things from the attic, including a rocking chair that had been in the family for generations. At first, it seemed like Megan was genuinely trying to get back on her feet. She got a part-time job at a local coffee shop and helped around the house. I remember visiting one evening and seeing her and dad tag-teaming dinner, Megan chopping vegetables while dad entertained Emily, making silly faces that had the baby giggling uncontrollably. It warmed my heart to see them bonding, and I thought maybe this unexpected turn of events would bring our family closer together. But as weeks turned into months, I started noticing a shift in Megan's behavior. She began leaving Emily with dad for hours at a time, often not returning until late at night. When I'd ask where she'd been, she'd brush it off with vague answers about catching up with old friends or networking for better job opportunities. The part-time job at the coffee shop didn't last long. Megan quit after a few months, claiming she wanted to focus on finding a career more suited to her skills. But instead of job hunting, she seemed to spend most of her time lounging around the house or going on shopping sprees. I once noticed a pile of designer shopping bags in her room when I was helping dad fix a leaky faucet, and it made my blood boil knowing dad was struggling to make ends meet. Speaking of dad's financial situation, it was getting dire. He had to dip into his modest savings to cover the extra expenses of having 2 more people in the house. I found out by chance when I overheard him on the phone with the bank, trying to negotiate a payment plan for his credit card bill. When I confronted him about it, he tried to downplay the situation, saying it was just temporary until Megan got back on her feet. But I could see the worry lines deepening on his forehead. I started helping out more, buying groceries and paying some bills without telling dad. I didn't want him to feel like he was failing as a provider. Meanwhile, Megan never contributed a dime. She always had excuses. She was building her wardrobe for interviews, she needed to maintain a certain image for networking, she was investing in online courses to boost her resume. It was always something. The situation came to a head last year when dad had a heart attack. It wasn't severe, thank goodness, but it was enough to land him in the hospital for a few days and scare the living daylights out of me. I practically lived at the hospital, sleeping in an uncomfortable chair by his bed and working remotely from the cafeteria when I could. Megan showed up once, staying for all of 30 minutes before leaving Emily with me and taking off, claiming she had an important meeting she couldn't miss. I later found out from Dad's neighbor that she'd been seen at the local bar that same evening. When Dad was released, the doctor stressed the importance of reducing stress and taking it easy. I took time off work to help him recover, but Megan barely acknowledged what had happened. She continued her same routine, leaving Emily with Dad while she went out. I tried talking to her about stepping up and helping more, but she always had excuses. Dad loves spending time with Emily, she'd say, or I'm still trying to figure out my career path. It's not easy in this economy. I bit my tongue to avoid causing more stress for Dad, but inside, I was seething. How could she be so selfish? How could she not see what she was doing to our father? The final straw came last month. I went to visit Dad on a Saturday afternoon and found him exhausted, trying to calm a crying Emily while Megan was nowhere to be seen. It turned out she had gone on a weekend trip with friends without telling anyone. Dad had been watching Emily for 3 days straight, all while trying to keep up with his doctor's orders to rest. I was beyond furious. When Megan finally returned Sunday evening, I confronted her. I told her she needed to start taking responsibility and stop taking advantage of Dad. She got defensive, saying I didn't understand how hard it was being a single mom, how she needed time for herself too. We got into a huge argument, voices raised and old resentments bubbling to the surface. I ended up leaving to avoid saying something I'd regret, but not before telling her she needed to grow up and start acting like a mother and a daughter. Now, Megan is barely speaking to me. She's told Dad that I'm trying to come between them and that I'm jealous of her relationship with Emily. Dad is caught in the middle, not wanting to take sides. He keeps saying we need to work it out as a family, but how can we when Megan refuses to acknowledge the problem? I love my sister and my niece, but I can't stand seeing Dad being taken advantage of like this. He's not getting any younger, and he deserves to enjoy his retirement without all this stress. The mechanic shop where he worked for over 30 years is trying to get him to come back part-time because they're short-staffed, and I'm worried he'll do it just to make ends meet. I don't know what to do. Should I try to talk to Megan again? Should I involve other family members, like our Aunt Jenny who lives a few hours away? Or should I just step back and let Dad handle it? I'm worried that if I push too hard, I'll end up pushing Megan and Emily away completely, which would break Dad's heart. But I also can't sit by and watch this continue. Any advice would be appreciated. I feel like I'm walking a tightrope, and one wrong move could send our whole family crashing down. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. Your comments really helped me gain perspective on the situation and gave me the courage to take action. After much deliberation, I decided to have a serious talk with Dad. I went over to his house one evening when Megan was out with Emily at a mommy and me class, one of the few responsibilities she'd taken on recently. I found Dad in his garage, tinkering with an old radio, a hobby he'd all but abandoned since Megan moved back in. Seeing him there, surrounded by his old tools and the familiar smell of motor oil, brought back a flood of childhood memories. We sat down on the worn-out couch he kept in the garage, and I started to express my concerns about his health and the stress he's under. At first, he tried to downplay it, saying he was fine and that he loved having Emily around. But as we talked more, the facade began to crumble. Dad admitted that he was exhausted. He'd been using his credit cards to cover expenses and was falling behind on payments. He showed me a stack of bills he'd been hiding in his toolbox, away from Megan's prying eyes. What broke my heart the most was when he confessed that he was afraid of confronting Megan because he didn't want to lose his relationship with Emily. "She's all I have left of your mother," he said, his voice cracking. I realized then that the situation was even worse than I thought. Dad had always been our rock, the one who held everything together. Seeing him so vulnerable and defeated was a wake-up call. I told Dad that we needed to set some boundaries with Megan, for his sake and for Emily's. He agreed but was nervous about how to approach it. We decided to have a family meeting. I called Megan and told her we needed to discuss some important matters. She was reluctant, making excuses about being busy, but eventually agreed when I stressed how important it was to Dad. The meeting was tense from the start. We gathered in the living room, the same room where we used to have family game nights when we were kids. Those happy memories felt a million miles away as we sat there, the air thick with unspoken accusations and resentments. Megan got defensive as soon as we brought up her living situation. She accused me of trying to kick her out, of not understanding her struggles as a single mom. But when Dad started talking about his health issues and financial struggles, something in her seemed to shift. I saw a flicker of the old Megan, the sister who used to look out for all of us, in her eyes. We laid out some ground rules. Megan needed to find a job within the next month. She would start paying rent to Dad. I offered to cover half to make it more manageable for her. She would be responsible for Emily's childcare during work hours instead of relying on Dad. She would contribute to household chores and groceries. Megan wasn't happy about these changes, but she grudgingly agreed. I think seeing how tired Dad looked finally made her realize she needed to step up. We ended the meeting with an awkward group hug, initiated by Dad. It wasn't much, but it felt like a start. The next few weeks were rocky. Megan started job hunting, but she complained about it constantly. Every dinner conversation seemed to revolve around how unfair the job market was or how her skills were being undervalued. But, true to her word, she did start helping more around the house. I'd stop by to find her doing laundry or cooking dinner, Emily playing nearby in a playpen. About 3 weeks after our meeting, Megan got a job at a local marketing firm. It wasn't her dream job, but it was a start. She also enrolled Emily in a nearby daycare center. I remember the day she started her job. She looked nervous but determined, dressed in a suit we'd found at a consignment shop. Dad and I both gave her pep talks before she left, and for a moment, it felt like we were a team again. Things seemed to be improving. Dad's health was getting better, his blood pressure was down, and he was sleeping better. He even started talking about rejoining his bowling league, something he'd given up when Megan moved back in. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Megan was still resentful. She was cordial to me when I visited, but there was an underlying tension. Sometimes I'd catch her glaring at me when she thought I wasn't looking, or making snide comments under her breath. Then, last week, I got a call from Dad. He sounded upset. Apparently, Megan had been talking to our Aunt Sarah, Dad's sister, behind our backs. Aunt Sarah had always been closer to Megan. She'd been the one to help Megan move across the country for college and had attended her graduation when Dad couldn't get time off work. Megan had told Sarah that I was trying to control her life and that Dad was choosing me over her. She painted herself as the victim, saying we were making it impossible for her to be a good mother to Emily. Aunt Sarah, only hearing one side of the story, called Dad to express her concerns. She told him he shouldn't let me come between him and Megan, that family should stick together no matter what. I was furious. After everything we'd done to help, Megan was still playing the victim. It felt like a betrayal, not just to me but to Dad as well. Dad was upset too, but he didn't want to confront Megan about it. We're finally in a good place, he said. I don't want to rock the boat. Now I'm at a crossroads. Part of me wants to confront Megan about her behavior, to call her out on her manipulation. But another part worries that it will only make things worse. Dad's health has improved since Megan started helping more, and I don't want to jeopardize that. I'm considering reaching out to Aunt Sarah to explain our side of the story. Maybe if she understood the whole situation, she could talk some sense into Megan. But I'm not sure if that's the right move. Would it just be seen as me trying to turn more family members against Megan? Should I confront Megan? Talk to Aunt Sarah? Or just let it go and hope things continue to improve? I feel like I'm back on that tightrope, and one wrong move could send us all tumbling down again. Any advice would be appreciated. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and the situation has taken some unexpected turns. I want to thank everyone again for their advice and support. Your insights have been invaluable during this challenging time. After much consideration, I decided to reach out to Aunt Sarah. I felt it was important to clear the air and provide her with a full picture. We had a long phone conversation where I explained everything that had been going on, Dad's health issues, the financial struggles, and the steps we'd taken to improve the situation. I made sure to emphasize that our goal wasn't to punish Megan, but to help her become more independent for her own good and Emily's. Aunt Sarah was surprised. Megan had painted a very different picture. She thanked me for being honest and promised to talk to Megan. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, hoping that maybe Aunt Sarah could get through to Megan in a way that I couldn't. A few days later, Megan confronted me. She was angry that I had spoken to Aunt Sarah, accusing me of trying to turn the family against her. We had a heated argument where a lot of long-buried feelings came to the surface. Megan revealed that she had always felt like I was Dad's favorite, and that she resented how close we were. She felt like moving back home had made her feel like a failure, and my involvement had only made it worse. I was shocked. I had no idea she felt this way. While I didn't agree with how she had handled things, I could understand her perspective a bit better. We both said some harsh things, but eventually, we managed to calm down and have a real conversation. It was the first time in years that we really talked, not just about the current situation, but about our childhood, our grief over Mom, and our fears for the future. In the midst of this family drama, something unexpected happened. Dad met someone. Her name is Linda, 58F, and they met at a community center where Dad had started volunteering. Apparently, he'd been going there for weeks without telling us, helping to organize a veterans support group. They hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared love of classic cars and old movies. At first, Megan and I were both a bit wary. We worried that Linda might be taking advantage of Dad, given his kindness and financial situation. But as we got to know her, we realized she was genuinely caring and had her own stable career as a librarian. She had lost her husband to cancer a few years back and wasn't looking for anything serious, just companionship. Seeing Dad happy made Megan and I both realize how much our conflict had been affecting him. We decided to try family counseling to work through our issues. It wasn't easy, and there were some tense sessions, but slowly, we started to understand each other better. Megan opened up about her struggles with single parenthood and her feelings of inadequacy. She admitted that she had been jealous of my stable job and close relationship with Dad. I shared my fears about Dad's health and my frustration with feeling like I had to take on so much responsibility. Through these sessions, we started to rebuild our relationship, remembering the close bond we had as kids. As for the living situation, we came to a new arrangement. Megan and Emily would continue living with Dad for now, but with a clear plan for Megan to move out within the next year. She's been sticking to her job and has even gotten a promotion. She's also been much more proactive about helping around the house and taking care of Emily. Dad's relationship with Linda has continued to grow. She's been a positive influence, encouraging Dad to take better care of his health and to pursue his interests. She's also been great with Emily, often taking her to the library for reading sessions. Things aren't perfect, but they're definitely improving. Megan and I are talking more openly now, and while we still have disagreements, we're handling them much better. Dad seems more relaxed and happier than he's been in years. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. There's still a lot of work to do, but for the first time in a long while, it feels like we're actually moving in the right direction as a family. Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm happy to report that things have continued to improve, though not without some challenges along the way. Megan has been doing well at her job and has been sticking to our agreement. She's been much more responsible with Emily and has been contributing to the household expenses. Her relationship with Dad has improved significantly, and it's been nice to see them enjoying each other's company again. Last week, I walked in on them laughing over old family photos, something I hadn't seen in years. As for Dad and Linda, their relationship has grown stronger. They've been traveling together, taking weekend trips to nearby towns and exploring new hobbies. Dad's even taken up painting, something he always talked about but never had time for before. It's been wonderful to see him so happy and active. However, about 2 months ago, we hit a bump in the road. Dad announced that he and Linda were thinking about getting married. While Megan and I were happy for them, it brought up some complicated feelings. We had to have some difficult conversations about what this meant for our family dynamics and living arrangements. After some initial tension, we all sat down together, Dad, Linda, Megan, and me, to discuss the future. Linda made it clear that she wasn't trying to replace our mom or push anyone out. She suggested converting the garage into a small apartment for Megan and Emily, giving them their own space while still being close to family. At first, Megan was resistant to the idea, feeling like she was being pushed aside. But after some thought, she realized it was a good compromise. It would give her more independence while still allowing Emily to be close to her grandfather. We've spent the last couple of months working on the garage conversion. It's been a family project, with all of us pitching in. Even Emily has been helping, excited about decorating her new room. The process hasn't been without its arguments and stress, but overall, it's brought us closer together. Megan is set to move into the new apartment next month. She's nervous but excited about this new chapter. She's been working hard to save money and is even talking about going back to school part-time to finish her degree. As for me, seeing all these positive changes has helped me relax a bit. I've been able to focus more on my own life, even starting to date someone new. Dad's wedding to Linda is planned for the fall, and we're all looking forward to it. Looking back on where we were a year ago, it's amazing to see how far we've come. There have been plenty of difficult moments and heated arguments along the way, but we've managed to work through them as a family. I'm proud of how we've all grown and adapted. I know we'll face more challenges in the future, but I feel like we're better equipped to handle them now. We're communicating more openly, respecting each other's boundaries, and supporting one another in a healthier way. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this journey. It's been a tough road, but I'm grateful for where it's led us.